the time of the year when we have to talk about magical internet money again. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, Dogecoin. Today I won't go into the basics of decentralization and blockchain technology. I do have a previous video on that if you really want to learn about that. But recently I've noticed that not a lot of people are talking about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies like they were about a year ago. Even Elon Musk has had better things to tweet about than Dogecoin all the time. And I'm sure that it's a complete coincidence that he stopped massively tweeting about Dogecoin since its big collapse in May. And of course I guess he's had better things to do like sending people into space. But the real reason for that slump in Bitcoin chatter recently is because of this big drop that happened in May. You can't blame anyone for not buying anything. In May, there was a 50% drawdown. I can think of a lot better things to do than lose 50% of my net worth, like maybe shoving actual real money up my jacksie, or listening to cryptocurrency songs on repeat.
Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, never sell.
Much value.
Rising, rising.
But the lack of interest in cryptocurrencies recently hasn't stopped news from churning out lots of different stories, like this one about El Salvador mining $300 using the power of a volcano. It hasn't stopped people making money either, like these 12-year-olds from the US making $5 million from NFTs. These are those famous non-fungible token JPEGs, which I agree, this bit's the bubble, right? One payment included $400 for a 52-minute recording of farts. There's 50 quid there. And I know I'm having a laugh, but I'm not one of those hardcore value investors that think that cryptocurrencies are absolutely useless. I do think that in the long run, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to have world-changing effects. But currently, depending on where you get your information from, there are between 5,000 and 13,000 cryptocurrencies on the market. This is in comparison to the real world, where there's only 180 currencies. This means you have to place huge bets on thousands of different currencies if you're going to find that real one that's going to be the be-all and end-all currency. And for that reason alone, I'm not investing in cryptocurrencies for the long term. I don't think it's probable for me to be able to pick those 4 or 5 coins that will eventually rule the world. So for about a year now, I've been following a very simple but very successful model in how to trade the hype of Bitcoin. And I've been using Etoro as my main broker to do this. There are many brokers to sign up to buy cryptocurrencies. Etoro just seems like the easiest one for me. I also use Coinbase, where I'm largely trading Ethereum and Cardano. You can also use other dedicated ones like Binance and Kraken and Gemini, but Binance have been having a lot of problems with regulation recently, and that's kind of caused a little bit of a mental block for me. The only one that really stood out for me was Etoro, because you can buy stocks on it as well. By the way, I have affiliate links to all of those companies in the description below. If you wanted to sign up for any of them, feel free, it really helps the channel out. But with all of these companies, be aware of fees. Coinbase largely has a 0.5% fee, and Etoro is slightly different. You'll be charged $5 each time you withdraw from your account, but Etoro make their fees on crypto by adding it into the spreads. 0.75% on Bitcoin isn't that bad, but any other coins you start to get really kicked in the ass. Ethereum here is one of the most disappointing at 1.9%. Also, if you were to sign up to Etoro, just remember that it's a CFD platform as well, and 67% of people lose money on CFDs. It's the stupidest thing that you can do. But my main reason for having Etoro is to be able to look at the charts and trade quite efficiently. And now, before we go any further and before I show you anything to do with my plan for Bitcoin over the next couple of months, we need to talk heavily about downside risk. Cryptocurrencies, I don't care what anyone says, are hugely volatile and have absolutely no intrinsic value. The only cryptocurrencies, in my opinion, that produce anything are these smart contract tokens like Ethereum and Cardano. These platforms are the ones producing the NFTs and have a lot of decentralized finance apps. That means that currencies like Bitcoin, Shiba Inu, Dogecoin, Cumrocket, all of those currencies have absolutely no intrinsic value and are therefore propped up by the price that people are willing to pay for them, i.e. hype. So if there is some really, really bad news that sends Bitcoin into a downward spiral, it may never recover because human sentiment needs to come back to love it. And once you understand that all these wiggly lines on this chart are all simply human sentiment, it allows you to build a little bit of a risk-based model. And that's what I've tried to do with all of these funny lines. All of these big resistance points are areas where people have been buying and selling lots of Bitcoin. Every time the price of Bitcoin crashes through one of these resistance points, the level of risk associated with Bitcoin gets a lot higher. Likewise, every time it goes through a resistance point, the risk of Bitcoin gets a little bit better. And I just want to make it clear that's a very super simple explanation. So if Bitcoin were to lose these two big resistance points, we could easily see Bitcoin drop back down to 20,000. And please believe me, that is very, very possible. You need to be aware of this downside risk. So while I am buying these cryptocurrencies to trade, if they did eventually drop to stupid low prices, I would just hold on to them and see where it goes in the future. But to understand my plan, you need to understand the Bitcoin halving cycles. Every 4 years, there's an event called the Bitcoin halving, and this generally sets off a lot of hype into Bitcoin. It's happened on 2 occasions previously, which isn't a great data set to consider it a precedent. But if I'm honest with you, it's enough of a precedent for me to put 5% of my entire net worth into Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I've followed great resources such as Charts BTC and gained some amazing information from Jordan Lindsay from JCL Capital. But now this chart from Miles J Creative has changed absolutely everything. I checked out Miles's Instagram. He's an amazing artist, and you can see exactly why he's been able to put this great chart together and show with such clarity how the Bitcoin cycles work. Miles has shown with great accuracy how the 2 previous cycles have run and where we are in the latest halving cycle. It shows that in the 2 previous cycles, a lot of people got very hyped up early doors in the Bitcoin cycle. Halfway through, we have a mid-cycle pullback. This year's mid-cycle pullback was about 50%. And we usually have 2 big waves, 2 pullbacks right before we get this massive mania. And according to Miles's model, we've had that mid-cycle peak now. We're heading into wave 2, and eventually we're going to see a 6,400% parabolic move up until 450,000. Yes, believe it or not, according to this model, 450,000 is the target price for Bitcoin. This is the only bit of the model that I disagree with. I really don't think it's going to be that high, but I'm going to stick around to see if it does go that high. He's calculated this as an average of the 2 previous cycles, the first cycle being 9,800% and the second cycle being 3,000%. However, if you consider that the cycles actually diminish in returns and we are seeing less returns in each cycle, then really you can only expect this cycle to reach a possibility of 1,000%. 1,000% is still pretty good. I haven't done the calculation, but that must be like 150,000 price for Bitcoin. And for a few people in our Discord, that's going to pay off a few of their mortgages. Now, you are able to interpret and believe these charts as you will. Some people will say that 450,000 is a bag of shit. I'm inclined to say that too. But just remember, even just in this early part of the Bitcoin cycle, just remember the frenzy of buying that was going on that caused Dogecoin to do this. With all this story and everything that I'm telling you right now, with people making these beautiful graphs which are very, very easy to read, I think more and more people are going to jump on board, think that they've found something that's absolutely magical, and they're going to start going mental. When we get to this large mania phase, people aren't going to be saying, oh yeah, it might go to 100,000. Oh yeah, it might go to 200,000. No, there's going to be loads of idiots out there going, Bitcoin to 1 million and blah, blah, blah. That is going to create such a huge mania that actually 450,000 doesn't feel so high anymore. This is simply my thesis on human psychology based on everything we saw going on last year. For what it's worth, I think this is a stupid idea, but I've got a lot of faith in humanity being absolutely stupid. Which is why I'm willing to risk no more than 5% of my entire net worth on cryptocurrencies at this time. I also don't want to have any problems with tax. So if I ever reach $15,000 inside the Etoro account, I will be out. And technically, that means I only have to go up 400%. Oh my God, what am I saying? That's of course 600% short of my conservative 1000% estimate, and of course 6000% short of Miles Creative's assessment. I have no doubt this is the stupidest thing I've ever done with my money. Only 2 years ago, $3,000 would be absolutely mental money to me. But I've made a plan to risk only a certain amount of my net worth on this. If I lose this money, I'm not going to end up on the streets. I'm not even going to end up slightly uncomfortable if I lose the money that I've put into Bitcoin right now. I also have a plan to get out and not be too greedy. Some would say that £12,000 is a little bit too greedy, but I guarantee just have a look in the comments. There's going to be people going absolutely mental over me not putting in enough money. and I'm still adding little bits into Bitcoin right now. And for the purpose of this video, I'm going to add $100 by clicking the buy, going to 100, and then opening a trade on Bitcoin. And it really is that simple. A little bit too simple, Etoro. You can see that I immediately start 0.75% down. That's because of that spread charge that Etoro charges you. And obviously, for complete transparency, I have 1,300 invested into Ethereum and 840 invested into Bitcoin on Etoro and about £400 invested on Coinbase.
2 days later.
Okay, it's been a few days now since I recorded that video. I recorded that on Tuesday, I think, and it's now Friday in that week. And Bitcoin already seems to have made that move. It looks like it's either this 11% one or this 13% one. I can't remember what date I actually bought it on. And we can see on the chart exactly what's happened. You can see that Bitcoin made this sort of move up to this resistance point. It kind of stalled, but went straight through up to the next resistance point. Now, I am not going to buy anything right here. This is the strongest piece of resistance that's available to Bitcoin right now. And not a lot of people have pointed this out to anybody. But this point right now is one of the most dangerous points in the cycle. Historically, if you get two high peaks, then the third peak is going to be even lower, and that is going to start a really significant long-term downtrend. We could have already seen this peak. Please remember this, guys. We definitely could have already seen this Bitcoin cycle peak. And this genuinely could be that big 85% downturn that comes after every single peak. However, if this price comes back down to here, bounces off that and breaks through this resistance, then I feel like we have a lot of room to make a lot of money. If the price does break through here and break to all-time highs, it's very possible that there'll be another big wave and then a look for that big parabolic move. But please be aware, based on probability, this isn't going to be one of the best times to buy, not until you get confirmation that this price is going through this resistance point. If it doesn't, there is a lot of risk coming on the downside, and we could see it back here in no time. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Let me know in the comments below what your strategy for Bitcoin is. That's if there's any. I'm sure there's a lot of value type investors out there watching this that absolutely hate this shit.